Oh, I won't back down. Oh, I can't back down. You could stand me up at the gates of hell, or maybe the Degrassi black hole. I know I have many weird opinions, but I know it's right to tell you why I can think of 10 things that I can't let go, and I won't back down. Strange how, I have problems with the 40 figures on Degrassi because they have done nasty things. Like the principals, like every principal from next generation onwards completely botched things. Radish botched the whole Rick situation. Hatzalakos botched the Peter situation from season 5 and 6. Snake had troubles dealing with his students and botched some situations. The Shep botched reading his school because he just wanted jocks and cheerleaders, the rah-rah style. And Pill botched a few things with her no affection policy and cameras in the hallway. But the fact of the matter is, there's another 40 figure which I distrust, and that's the mayor, Mayor Hollingsworth, Miles Hollingsworth II. The son is Miles Hollingsworth III by proxy. But the fact of the matter is, he used a lot of things. He had a mayoral campaign that almost was ruined thanks to Zoe's rape and a few other things, including his conduct with his kids and wanting Frankie to take the blame for Degrassi nudes so that, he can be put as a good father. His fatherly tactics were not there, and sometimes the mother would actually not do anything but cower, because after all, politicians are politicians. So anyhow, this is the story of Miles Hollingsworth II, the mayor who may have used influence and power to make sure his kids get off scot-free with 3 incidents. 3 kids, 3 incidents. That's focus on them. This seems like one of the most unlikely things I would like to talk about within my opinions I won't back down from, because the last 5 are going to be very good opinions. But let's just focus on why I'm doing this video. And I made a post 2 weeks ago, and this is being taped on September the 9th, 2023 for context. It says, was it possible that Hollingsworth put pressure on Snake to not punish his kids severely? And of course, I go with the hear me out. 6 people comment, if I must know. Anyway, Miles started a fire in season 14 that almost ruined the school and luckily didn't cause too much damage. And yeah, he's back at Degrassi with no repercussions and all that. I know he was headed for boarding school, but I think Hollingsworth kind of knew that he might have got some clap back if he sent his kid to private school. Hunter started a movement to get back at the feminists for ruining his gaming club in Next Class Season 1. Brought a gun to the school, stopped by Miles, put in a facility by his mom, yet still is allowed to come back to Degrassi after what he did, with no repercussions. And Frankie starting the movement with her drawing gorillas on a poster to intimidate Northern Tech in Next Class Season 2. She's sad because the school was called the Sioux. And the only punishment she got was being kicked off the volleyball team. And the school was out for Snake's head that he wasn't doing anything about that. Plus, his suspension of Tiny didn't help matters. What I'm trying to say is that was it possible that the 3 kids didn't suffer major stiffer punishments due to Mayor Hollingsworth's potential clout and Snake just afraid to do something about it? In my mind, suspensions would have been an easy solution and less threatening than expulsions, which would have set off the mayor. So what do you think? 6 people chimed in. Well, one person said, Frankie did not make a racist poster. She drew everyone as an animal. Gorilla, giraffe, hippo. The other school's players made it about race. That's a good point. I mean, I understand that. But, the show portrayed it as being racially motivated and all that. Clownsgur, strange name, but anyway, says, to be fair, Degrassi was a quote-unquote, the adults don't run the school, we do. school. Because anytime the adults tried to run the school, they would say how it's unfair, cruel, and start protests or something. Simpson could have tried, but I feel like people would have been mad at him. Maybe you might have a point. I think they do have a point. I think this person does have a point. Because the students would complain and the adults would back off. Adults didn't really back off all the time, but they did. Raptors in the kitchen. I hope who's a Raptors fan says, Rick put Terry in a coma and came back to school. Spitter indirectly got someone shot, and even he comes back. Plus, like the others pointed out, Simpson didn't know who started the fire, etc. Someone like Hollingsworth could have made some big donations to the school to make things go away, but I think Simpson's too pure to take bribes. I don't really think that it's all about bribery or money. I don't think money was the issue. I think, I don't think it was bribes. I think it was just the fact that Hollingsworth would probably try to ruin Simpson's career. If he has any gall to take care of my kids like that, I'm going to make him pay for it. Irish Dance Girl said, there were a few things. Nobody knew Miles started the fire. No one at the school knew that Hunter brought his gun to school. Simpson also didn't know that Hunter and his friends were behind the harassment Miles receiving. Once Sig told him, he punished them accordingly. Everyone had to do community service. And Hunter's punishment was worse because he was unapologetic. It says, I can't remember what the Matlin family did after the swatting. Simpson even said, that's not really up to him, it's up to the cops. Frankie didn't start a movement. She made a ignorant racist drawing. It was also a very gray area. Getting kicked off the team was more of a punishment for her personally than, say, a few days suspension. Being on the team meant a lot to her, and this was separate from the tiny suspension thing. And Thundercat said, the school didn't know about many of these things. They didn't have the luxury of watching the show like we did. And when did Simpson come into play at all during the Northern Tech Soup Banner incident? The tiny suspension was totally separate, and given the zero tolerance rule, it wasn't optional. If you're going to have an zero tolerance rule, then if a teacher sees two people fighting, everyone that can be punished should be. Since Tiny was the only one they could punish, he gets punished. If you don't, there's no such thing as zero tolerance. I get it, in a way. Yeah. So yeah, like, the school didn't know. But the school could have known. After all, you have students that will probably gossip and all that. Kind of like Paige. They would probably say something. But anyway, here's the context of the three incidents I've talked about. So, Councillor Hollingsworth, as he was known as, decides to do a Degrassi campaign stop and promises a new wing for Degrassi, which a lot of people don't think is fair because Degrassi doesn't really need a new wing, or do they? And also because of Mayor of Hollingsworth having his three kids there, some say it's pretty much a PR stunt and nepotism. So Miles is upset with his father not getting the results. His mom says to suck it up. He burns his dad's campaign poster, but unfortunately he drops the poster and it spreads throughout the school and within the cheerleading competition, which was also with Councillor Hollingsworth's stop. So that causes a lot of chaos and all that. So the fact of the matter was that, Miles started the fire. Obviously his dad kind of knew. Well, of course, Miles, Frankie, and Hunter stand up to their dad, and their dad says, "You're going to do this while I'm running to be mayor?" And somehow he wins. I don't know how he wins. Maybe he's like Doug Ford, the Ontario Premier. He wins because he has rich friends within the system. Just saying. Anyway, my point is that was a huge one because Miles was going to boarding school, but fortunately, though, he went back to Degrassi and he never got punished for it. Hollingsworth probably would have figured if someone knew about it, he could sweep it under the rug and force Simpson to grovel. Simpson doesn't have to grovel because of a of a bribe. He can grovel just by being himself. He would grovel. Anyway, point number 2 is Hunter's thing. So I didn't really watch Next Class as much as I would like to. But anyway, in season 1, Hunter and his friends decide to get on Maya's nerves for some strange reason. And then the feminist group, which Maya joins, I guess trying to be part of something, causes a fuss over the gaming club and their game, which has female characters. Hunter said, that's just how it was drawn and all that. That's just how the software is. And Goldie says, why don't you just do Wii Bowling? And all that. Hunter's not too happy. Hunter overreacts, and that's when Simpson decides to shut down the gaming club, and Hunter wants to go after Goldie, who sometimes uses Maya as a mouthpiece, because I guess Goldie's saying that, they'll listen. If Maya's in charge, they'll listen, but not realizing what extremes Hunter would go to. So Hunter takes a gun to the school dance. Fortunately, Miles stops him from making a giant mistake. His mom puts him in a facility for a while, and then he's allowed to come back. I mean, you obviously have to explain Hunter's absence to Simpson. Like, Simpson had to know something about why Hunter was gone for a few weeks. They could have just basically lied, and Simpson would have believed them. Or, Hollingsworth would put the pressure on Simpson, saying that, if you ruin my kid's education, I'll ruin you somehow. And he grovels. And then, of course, the Frankie situation. I know it's a gray area with the whole poster, and the meaning was there, but unfortunately there was always a hidden message in everything. Trust me. So what ends up happening is Frankie gets kicked off the volleyball team. However, the school wants Simpson to do something about Frankie's racist poster. And Simpson said, Frankie got kicked off the team. That's good enough. And all that. And of course they get another bit of dander with Tiny suspension for the fight. Yes, Tiny fight the guy, but he fought him because he was protecting Lola and Shay. And yet, miscommunication and Simpson automatically giving the zero tolerance policy there and the 5-day suspension caused the students to get mad. And of course, the Throwback Thursday, it was revealed that white students don't face as much punishment as minority students do. Which is like, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But yeah, that was huge. It's just basically Simpson's lack of reaction. And I mean, they want to talk about it. Lola said, we just want to talk about it, have a discussion. There's nothing wrong with that. Simpson would have to explain himself, but I'm sure Simpson can explain himself. So yeah, that was pretty rough around the edges. So the fact of the matter, guys, is that, it's possible Hollingsworth had a hand in making Snake grovel. Remember, this is not the first time Snake has had someone breathing down his neck. Remember Karen? Audra Torres? Yeah, that's right. For seasons 10 and to 13 primarily, Audra was breathing down Snake's neck. Yes, Snake didn't do enough to address the whole Adam situation with the transgender thing. And, Drew being hazed by Riley, although Simpson did the right thing by getting Riley in deep trouble. But I think it was because Audra threatened some action, and Audra was part of the PTA, which would have ruined Simpson's career, and Simpson really wanted that job so badly. But Simpson is Simpson. What do you expect? But yeah, Simpson had to grovel. Now, it's important to know that Audra talks a game about the transgender thing, but she tried her best to get Adam to turn back into Degrassi, so bit of a hypocritical move, but once she accepted Adam for who he was, then I think she just changed her tune. So yeah, so Simpson had a history of people breathing down his neck, and Hollingsworth is in a bigger position than Audra was, because Hollingsworth is the mayor who can do stuff to the school board and all that, probably punish Degrassi and all that. So Simpson groveled. I feel in a way Simpson groveled. Not as much as I feel nowadays, but Simpson groveled. It doesn't matter the level of groveling, it's the fact that he did grovel. And Simpson was probably scared of the repercussions if he had punished Hunter, Frankie, or Miles in a dangerous thing. Wait, the mayor would have gotten mad at him. I mean, he had his history with Audra, but the fact of the matter is that despite everything, it just doesn't seem to fit the circle, if you will. But the fact, guys, is that something had to happen. I mean, yeah, maybe policies may force Snake not to make punishments, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with a suspension for any of them, especially Hunter. But then again, when they learned about Hunter's actions and all that, they forced the gaming club to do community service. That's the problem with me not watching these episodes, is that, you know, you miss key elements that make you make the judgment calls. But I still think Hollingsworth put the pressure on Snake. Like it or not, that's how I feel. You don't have to agree with me. If you want to, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's just how I feel, and that's the way I feel. So anyway, stay tuned next week as I take a look at how clingy Emma was as a friend. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.